It's Dan Arthur here for the I Love St. Pete Facebook group. If you're a business owner looking to connect with tens of thousands of potential new local customers, you owe it to yourself to get enrolled in our Key Tag Rewards program. Since 2019, we've signed up more than 200 local merchants. Sponsor opportunities are available too, such as our group banner ad and even your own custom key tags. Just go to stpetekeytag.com, get enrolled, and get ready to get busy. stpetekeytag.com.
Notoriety Sports Network. Breaking news, live shows, unprecedented content. Notoriety Sports Network. Built different.
What's going on? Welcome back to another edition, your Friday night edition before Memorial Day weekend. It's the Sports Web live here on the Notoriety Sports Network. And of course, I Love St. Pete. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. On tonight's show, we'll have ABC Action News as Mr. Dennis Phillips, a meteorologist, talking football, all local Tampa Bay sports with you. We'll have former cornerback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and, of course, former Fox 13 analyst, Mr. Ricky Reynolds, on at 9:30. And then at 10 o'clock, we will have Mr. Jason Powers on Sports podcast. And then, of course, your phone call, 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. And how do we start off the Sports Web? Bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. So how are we doing tonight? Are we feeling good about the Tampa Bay Lightning? Let's go ahead and give it up to them. Because we now know that the Lightning are going to play the Carolina Hurricanes Sunday at 5 o'clock as they closed out the Florida Panthers the other night. So what do you think, Lightning fans? Are you ready for that series, the second round? Can it get any better than it was in the first round? I think it can. I love me some NHL playoffs. Playoffs? Yeah, I said playoffs. I did.
Playoffs?
Yeah.
What you talk about? Playoffs?
That's what I do. That's what I do,
playoffs?
Jim. That's what we do here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. You have the Rays going on. That stadium situation, a debacle. We'll talk about that. Of course, Tom Brady working out with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, it is not an OTA. In fact, let's get to that because we'll go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're waiting for Dennis Phillips to get on. And then, of course, once again, we'll take your phone call, 727-255-0391. According to Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times, Tom Brady and about 10 teammates, including wide receiver Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, tight ends Rob Gronkowski, and Cam Brate, are a part of a workout. Brady posted those pictures of his workout on Instagram. And, of course, Bruce Arians was saying early on in the week when they were working out at Legends Field, that would be Brady and the rest of the Bucs, that he would rather them work out at the facility. Why? Well, because if they get hurt, then basically they're not getting paid, a.k.a. Jawan James offensive tackle of the Denver Broncos. So he would rather them work out at the facility. And knock on wood, nobody wants any injuries, of course. Nobody does. Nobody wants any injuries at this point. So, like I said, Arians said he offered the players for their own protection as injuries sustained away from the team's facility could result in voided guarantees and contracts. So there you go. That's kind of your Bucs news. Some other stuff to get along here. Of course, it was announced the other day that Brady is going to do another match on July 6th. How do you like the golf matchup? I don't watch golf, but I'm tuning into this. I am. It's going to include Phil Mickelson, who just won the PGA tournament with Tom Brady, and is going to face Bryson DeChambeau and Aaron Rodgers. He hasn't been in the news lately, right? Oh, my goodness. That guy's been all around the news. Will he stay? Will he go? We know that he's going to play in a golf matchup against Tom Brady. And, of course, Brady, being the master troller that he is, has said 2 champions versus a scientist and a Jeopardy host. God, I love this. I love this already. You've got to love that. So, yeah, are you going to be tuning into that? Because that was highly entertaining last year, was it not? Of course, there was no sports going on. Fans are kind of going crazy. That's my other question for the night. It's kind of different, right? We talk about it last year to this year. But what's going on with the fans out there? Not to get on my soapbox, but throwing popcorn at a basketball player? Spitting on another basketball player? Come on, fans. Be better than that. And I get it. I get it that we're all being cramped up in our houses. We're looking for sports. We want to see this and that and the other thing. But it doesn't give you cause to be an idiot. I mean, honestly.
Freaking idiot.
Exactly. Exactly. A friggin' idiot. I don't care if it was popcorn. I don't care if it was spit, which is disrespectful. Completely and totally disrespectful. So tell me, why are fans acting like this? Or are we paying too much attention to this as a sports broadcaster? 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. Waiting for the great Dennis Phillips of ABC Action News. He's a busy man. So we'll keep talking to you. Let's go out to the webheads. Ambrose Production. I appreciate that. Ray says, Alex, let's go. And I think that's Florentina. Thank you very much for tuning in. Alex says, don't get me started on the stadium. We could talk about that all night long, couldn't we? And in my passionate plea the other night, I'm not going to apologize for it. The lawsuit is by 5 minority owners who are saying in so many words that basically Stu Sternberg, the majority owner, is trying to take more of a stake into the team. Not necessarily pay them. And on top of that, has been talking to Montreal since 2014. Surprise, surprise. But then, according to the Tampa Bay Times, the Tampa Bay Rays have been talking to the Tampa City Council about the Ybor deal coming back. Of course, it wouldn't be a full-time thing because they got to have that sister concept. You've got to have that, right? There could be no full-time team here. We know how Stu feels about you fans out there. I've gone over it and over it and over it again. Just imagine waking up one day and having an owner that supports the fans. I don't know. Kind of like Jeff Vinik of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Kind of like the Glazers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now comes word that not only the Ybor deal could be in play, But also, according to the Tampa Bay Times, Tampa City Council member Charlie Miranda claimed Friday that Rays president Brian Old told him the team could relocate to Nashville. So here come the scare tactics again. You've got to love it. It kind of brings back memories, doesn't it, Rays fans? Let's go ahead and rewind the clocks, shall we? Remember when the White Sox were supposed to come here? 1986, 1987? God, I'm getting old. What happened there? St. Petersburg White Sox, whatever else, at the last minute, get their stadium deal. How about the Giants? Oh, they're certainly coming there. They're certainly coming here. Last minute, get a stadium deal, stay in San Francisco. I mean, how many times has this city, Tampa, St. Pete, been used? How many? It's a scare tactic. I'm sorry. If Nashville's willing to pay the $892 million for a stadium, have at it. I just don't believe it. And then, of course, going back to the lawsuit, which I know we love to talk lawsuits on this show because this is must-see TV when I'm talking about it. How in the world, if you have a lease, and I'm not necessarily the most intelligent person ever when it comes to law, right? Mom's out there watching right now. She wanted to be an attorney, but you guys can put two and two together. If you have a lease until 2027, then how in the world are you able to talk to other teams or other cities? How are you able to do that? Since 2014. Are you upset, Rays fans? You probably should be, but you shouldn't be surprised if you're listening to the show, because I've been saying it forever now. So lots of things going on with this Rays stadium situation. And oh, by the way, the Rays are actually a good team in Major League Baseball, which is a sad shame. Because instead of talking about the play on the field, we're talking about this friggin' nonsense. Stadium deals, relocation, scaring the hell out of people during a pandemic. Unbelievable. So we got Dennis Phillips. Let me read the rest of these comments. I'm going to get his thoughts on it, because this guy loves Tampa sports. That's what I love about Dennis Phillips, right? And I always say it. He missed his calling. He should have been a sports broadcaster, but he's a sports broadcaster on this program, on the Notoriety Sports Network, and I love St. Pete. You got to love it. The Rays situation, the Bucs situation, the Lightning situation. We'll talk about it all here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Let me read these comments, and then we'll get out to him. We should be signing Julio by this upcoming week. Troy, it's not happening. I'm sorry. In your heart of hearts, I love you, my friend. You're a great webhead. You're a great supporter. But Julio Jones is not getting into a Bucs uniform. They've got Antonio Brown. They've got Chris Godwin. They've got Mike Evans. That trade's not happening until over June 1st. Then that's when the Falcons can basically be rid of that albatross of a contract, Leo Ward. And there's a team, according to Diana Rossini of ESPN, that says a team out there is willing to give up a first-round pick. Who could it be? Patriots. I mean, if you're the New England Patriots and Jones wants to play with Cam Newton, make it happen. I don't think the guy can stay healthy, but the Patriots, what do you have to lose? You're not a playoff team. You don't really have a number one wide receiver. Go for it. Tennessee, by the way, is a long shot, so we'll see. But again, no Julio in Tampa Bay. Sandra Nagel, my agent, and of course my mother, says watching the best sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area, the Sports Web with I Love St. Pete, and the Notoriety Sports Network. Oh, yeah, special shout-out to LTX Studios, Mr. Julio Rivera, for the graphics change. Love that guy. He doesn't get enough pub on this show. Does a fantastic job to make this look so professional. All right. Troy says, any news on the Montreal Rays? We just talked about it. Very funny. And for that, you get this. What's the announcement about the Ybor site again? They've been talking to Tampa officials the last couple of days. Shocker. So stupid. Alex, just let the Rays go. Fans don't deserve the torture is unfair. Christopher Cole, hey, what's up, everyone? Let me go ahead and fire those cannons for him. Love it. And we'll talk about it. Because I know that some of you Rays fans, and lo and behold, again, there's Rays fans in the Bay Area, Stu. It's amazing. There's actually baseball fans out there that want to watch this team and root for them, even with the cost-cutting measures this franchise goes through. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get him on, one of the busiest men in the Tampa Bay area, ABC Action News meteorologist, Mr. Dennis Phillips. Welcome to the Evolution. And I got to get your thoughts about this whole stadium situation with Sue Sternberg. I mean, where do you stand with it? And let me just give you something to think about. Do you feel like if Sternberg would not talk about the fan base so poorly over the years that maybe, just maybe, he would have more fans attend games? Welcome to the Evolution.
Hey, how's it going, Peter? I date back my alliances to the Rays to before they were actually even a team. Every year, they have a thing called the Wall of Fame, the Rays Wall of Fame. And my second son, I have 6 kids. My second son, I was driving into work. My wife was pregnant. And they were announcing their original supplemental draft choices before they were even a team. And the 5th choice, the kid's name was Shea Gunner. And I thought, man, what a cool name. I like the name. So we ended up naming our son after this 5th round pick from the very first draft from the team. And when they had this contest of the Rays Wall of Fame, nominate in 25 words or less why you think you should be in the Wall of Fame. And I nominated my son. He was 6 months old at the time. And I said, because I guarantee you he was the first baby ever named after a Rays player. And he actually won. So if you go into the Trop and you ride into the Rotunda area and you look off to the right where they have the Wall of Fame, you go back to the very first year and you will see 6 pictures. One of them is nicknamed Baby Ray, Shea Phillips. It's my son. So my point of that story is I have been a Rays fan from day one. And I always will be a Rays fan. However, Stu has not done himself any favors. And honestly, this conversation could go in so many different directions because I've kind of heard what you were talking about. Stu, look, he can do what he wants to. He owns the team. But I will tell you, every time he opens his mouth, it's a PR nightmare for that team because he can't help himself from insulting the fan base. And it's just what he does. I don't know if it's, his nature. I don't know if that's his ploy. Maybe he wants to because ultimately he wants to move. Maybe that's in the back of his mind that he wants to go anyway. So the more negativity, in spite of we believe that we can make the Rays can maintain baseball in Tampa Bay for generations to come. They say that, but oh, by the way, we want to go to Montreal as well. So we all get it. The fan base, and this is where I think there's a big disparity in what the national media portrays. They love to say, look, nobody's at the games. Well, this year, nobody's at any games. I mean, granted, because of COVID, but
right.
They used to always say the Rays, nobody shows up. They have no fans. Those two do not go hand in hand. The Rays have a solid fan base, but the problem is they don't have a solid fan base that goes to the games. I mean, that's just a fact. The Rays gear is everywhere. You see it. I see it. I own 15 billion pieces of Rays merchandise, and I know a lot of other folks do. The problem is that doesn't mean that we're not fans, that we don't go to the games. It just means that for whatever reason, you don't go to the games because it's easier to watch them on TV now for a million reasons. But at the end of the day, I do think moving the stadium to Tampa to have it more centrally located would make it easier for people to get to the games. Whether that would solve the attendance issues, I don't know. But my son, actually my oldest son, writes for D-Rays Bay. It's the Rays blog. And it's
really?
I don't know if he's one of the original. Yeah, the son who just graduated medical school this last week and is going to be a doctor in New Orleans. And yet he still writes for D-Rays Bay and handles all their Twitter feed. So he's, as me, just a stupid Rays fan. But I was reading on their site today, and there was a really good article by Daniel Russell on that site. And he was talking about each part of this equation. Who wants the team to stay who wants the team to go. And I would suggest for your viewers to click on that side, on that article and read it, because in a nutshell, Sternberg obviously wants them. Well, not to say go, but to split it 50-50. It'll play the spring games, open air stadium in Ybor. Now that's the latest thing. And then once you hit June or the All-Star break, you go up to Montreal. So you've got him, according to this article, Sternberg obviously wants it. The mayor of Tampa, Jane Castor, they're having conversations. I mean, when Mayor Kreisman in St. Pete was, saying, look, we don't want this anymore, Mayor Castor's like, oh, we'll still talk to him. So I think what's happened is from the last year to 2 years, when our first initial reaction was, this is ridiculous. What the heck do you think you're going to do taking this team from Tampa? Now I think some of the political figures are saying, well, maybe 50% is better than nothing. I think that's kind of what it sounds like people are saying. But is 50% for a $700 million facility going to be worth it? And I get it. The Rowdies would play there, and they would get their spring training games there as opposed to in Port Charlotte. So there is a give and take. But at the end of the day, this whole thing, look, it's business, and they can run their business as they like. But to me, I was a season ticket holder for about 15 years, and I dumped my tickets when they traded Longo. And I know why they did it. I mean, that's the way the Rays have to play ball. They have to get rid of the players, the Blake Snells and the Will Myers and the players that maybe they believe might not pan out. Although the Snell, it's kind of hard to make that argument. But you know what they do. I mean, they do that. They get younger players, and they do a very good job doing it. They've always done that. But when they traded Longo and when they talked about moving to Montreal, I'm like, forget it. If you think I'm going to spend $1 of my money on this team now, when half of it is probably going to go to Montreal anyway, it just lost the alliance. So look, we're not a fan base with generation after generation after generation of watching this team. But the way I perceive it, you'll never get that as long as you continue to threaten that you're going to move. And it's kind of a catch-22, because I think Sternberg, if they sold out all the games, maybe he'd want to stay. But we're not going to sell out all the games because he's ticking off all the fans who would go anyway. So it's just a tough situation.
It really is. And I always go back to this, Dennis. If they had an ownership like Jeff Vinik, who is committed to this area, the Bay Area, doing charitable work, not saying the Rays haven't done that, but, kind of endearing himself to Tampa Bay sports fans. If they had the Glazers here, I feel like the Rays would be in better shape than they are. Do you think a contributing factor of that is because of the way they do business, how this team has never been a $100 million team? And then on top of it, the owner said a couple years ago, I'm a Mets fan. Well, look, if you're a Mets fan, go own the Mets. And if that's the owner of the Rays and I'm a Yankee or Red Sox fan, why should I give up my allegiance to those teams when their own owner is saying he's a Mets fan? It makes no sense.
I get it, but a couple of things with that. Let's be honest. How many people go to the games whether or not go to the games, whether or not the owner's a jerk? I mean, look at the Steinbrenners. I mean, a lot of people did not like George Steinbrenner, but the Yankees still had a huge following and a huge fan base because that was their team for their life and their parents' life and their parents' parents' life. I mean, it was part of who they were, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, Stu has not helped this team with PR. Again, maybe that's intentional. Maybe in the back of his mind, he knew he wanted to move this team. And here's the other reason that I'll say that this is just not all management's fault, not ownership's fault. Look, back in 2008, we went to the World Series and almost beat the Phils, right? That was the year that it all came together. And I'm thinking, this is it. You have to have that one moment where it all turns it around and then the fans start showing up. And you know what? They never did. Even after 2008 in the World Series, they never turned out in 09 and 10 and 11. And that really shocked me because there's the big argument. Well, you're never going to get the fans in the Bay Area because a lot of those fans are from other areas and they still have their allegiances to the Red Sox and the Yankees and whoever else may be. And I think there is some truth to that. But at the end of the day, I still think a stadium that would be more centrally located. I mean, and I hate to say this, but think about New York and Chicago and Boston. They all have mass transit to get to those stadiums. You don't have to drive across the bridge. You don't have to do anything other than park your car, pick up the train, and you're right in and you're right out. People like convenience. And to actually physically have to get up and drive 45 minutes one way, 45 minutes back, it's something that nowadays, living in the Bay Area now for 30 years, I live out from Palm Harbor, Tarpon Springs, and people thought I was crazy to live 45 minutes from my work because it's too far of a drive. So I'm a big fan. I will drive hours to go see a game. We drove up to Durham from here to watch Matt Moore pitch when he was pitching for the Bulls. Mm-hmm. So I'm not opposed to driving, but I still think that does come into play to somewhat of an extent. But I'll tell you, Peter, I really, as much as I love that team and as much as I love this area, they have not supported this team the way that I think other cities may have done so. And 08 is a perfect example. I mean, how do you not sell out from that point on, making the World Series and still keeping all your players the next year? You know, the David Prices and all those guys. It just shocked me. I was positive that would be the year 09 when we would start selling out the Trop every time. And sure, we sell out opening day and we sell out the playoffs. But what about the other 162 games? It just doesn't happen.
We're on with ABC Action News' Dennis Phillips, meteorologist. How's the weather looking for Memorial Day weekend? Everybody's getting excited about it. More than likely, you have a 3-day weekend. So how is the weather forecast looking for the Bay Area?
It's finally getting back to summer. I mean, we're going to start seeing some inland showers and storms on Saturday and Sunday. Polk County, Hardy, DeSoto Highlands, inland areas. I think on Memorial Day, the winds are going to come around. And when they do, we're going to start seeing, and we need the rain. I mean, we really need the rain. Mm-hmm. And I think by Memorial Day, and even more than that, maybe Tuesday through Friday of next week, we're going to get an easterly wind back, and that's going to bring some rain back toward the beaches where we need it. So you're going to dodge a few inland showers and storms tomorrow, a few more on Sunday and Monday, but all in all, still, I think a really nice Memorial Day weekend.
Going back to the Rays, what do you think about their play on the field? We talked about losing a Blake Snell and, of course, a Charlie Morton in the offseason, but once again, this team has proven, even with a slow start, everything it seems like they touch. And that's why I feel like, look, Dennis, if they were a $100 million ball club, they could be absolutely amazing. But I feel like the owner is making more money than he's saying, and this is the way they want to do business. So whatever it is, but still with the product on the field, just tremendous, even with the losses in the offseason. Talk about this Rays team off the field this year.
It's what they do. I mean, I just looked at the odds. The Rays have a 98.6% chance as of right now of making the playoffs, higher than any other team in the AL, including the Chicago White Sox that have the best record. So, I mean, they do it with smoke and mirrors. I mean, it's always pitching and defense, right? I mean, that's their mantra. They have the great pitching, but they're doing it with pitching that a lot of teams have discarded. I mean, granted, Waka didn't pitch very well yesterday. I mean, but Hill certainly has. And, and then you've got, Glass now, who was lights out his last outing. He got lit up in Toronto, on Dunedin, actually. But, honestly, I mean, if you talked, and this is the part that cracks me up. If you talk to most people in the Bay Area who's kind of a lukewarm baseball fan, they probably could not name 2 players on that team, because that is the way that this team operates. They have, great pitching. They have solid defense. I mean, the Willy Adames trade, that surprised a lot of people, but not when you have Walls behind him, and then you've got Franco farther, waiting to come up as well. So they've got so much depth in the minors now. They've got a lot of people. I mean, obviously, Arozarena. I mean, Randy, he came up out of nowhere. The Cardinals, a lot of Cardinals fans, if you read the message boards, when the Cardinals traded Arozarena, they were ticked off, a lot of those fans, because they just had a feeling he was one of those guys that could light it up. Now, I don't think anybody expected him to do what he did in the playoffs last year, but the guy can play. It's a fun team to watch, and they're off tonight, which is rare on a Friday night. They had the Phils this weekend, but I'll tell you, if you look at that lineup, top to bottom, I mean, Kevin Kiermaier has got a great glove, but he has not been hitting at all this year. There's a lot of folks arguing that maybe it's time for him to be traded elsewhere and save some money with the cap that way. You're never ever going to hear me question the moves that management makes, because how can you? They made it to the World Series last year. They're the hottest team in baseball right now, and they're doing it without a lot of players. And by the way, they were scoring an average of 9 runs a game the last 10 or 15 games. So it isn't that they're just winning those 2-1 games like the Rays historically have won. They've got pitching, defense, and they've got pop, which is pretty amazing.
It really is amazing. Another amazing story has to be the Tampa Bay Lightning and how they disposed of the Florida Panthers, and now they're set to meet the Carolina
Hurricanes.
You got to love that. Lightning and Hurricanes. How do you see this Lightning team? How do you see this playing out in this series versus the Hurricanes? And what were your thoughts on that Panther series, Dennis?
It's a great series, and I'm hoping that creates the kind of rivalry. You know, the Panthers have always played really well against the Bolts. Even when the Panthers weren't very good, they were always kind of a thorn in the side of the Bolts. And I still think Game 1 was one of the best hockey games I've ever seen. And I'm a big hockey fan. I've watched it all my life. But I'll tell you, the first game that the Bolts ended up winning, I was floored how entertaining of a game that was. And they, you don't want to say they just don't like each other because it's such a sports cliche, but it's kind of turning into that. And I like that. I mean, especially in hockey. But the Canes are a solid team. I will tell you this. I grew up a Washington Capitals fan. I grew up in the D.C. area. And that's the only team that I have not been able to give up my entire allegiance to. I still love the Bolts, and, you know, I follow them. And matter of fact, in the pregame of the playoffs, I don't know if you've heard this, but they did what, you know, how they make the, the videos when the players come out on the ice and they try to get the fans up, the hype videos. Well, they did it with some local weather people, myself included. And we're in that video saying, you know, there's extreme lightning warnings, you know, all this kind of stuff. And so, I mean, it's actually been a lot of fun. And I love that team. They're fun to watch. Their skill players are awesome. The Hurricanes are a good team, and I think they're going to give the Bolts everything they can handle. I mean, whether they've got Kucherov back, they've got Stamkos back, they've got their guys back that they need, but you have to wonder if sometimes in sports in general, the team that didn't quite get there the previous year, like the Islanders and like the Hurricanes, they're on the way up. I think it's a lot easier to have a team that's got some motivation as opposed to keeping that back to back. That's just my opinion, but it just seems like winning back to back might even be harder than it is for those teams that were just about there that previous year. And then the next year they turn the corner, which is going to be an interesting situation with the Bucs, obviously, too. Are they going to have that Super Bowl hangover like some other teams do?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think there's a lot of people that expect not only the Lightning to repeat, but of course the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Going back to the fan situation, because we opened up this broadcast, of course, you heard stories this week of a fan throwing popcorn on Russell Westbrook, and then you have somebody spitting on Trae Young in New York. And again, I get it, Philly and New York, these are tough fan bases. What do you make of this? Why are fans being so crazy right now? Is it because they've been stuck in their house for so long, so now they're getting out? Or are we paying too much attention to this as media members? It's always been there.
This is just me, just my opinion, but I think it's always been there. The difference is you now have phones everywhere. So every single thing, I mean, think about it, Peter. I think you can relate to me. I'm probably older than you. In fact, I know I'm older than you. But I think about the times when I was 25, 20, 30, and I am really glad that there were no phones that had videos all the time, because I would have been in a world of hurt. And I just think that now, no matter with cancel culture and with videos everywhere, there's just no way to do something that isn't caught on video. So I think there's been people that have thrown popcorn at players before, and there's been a lot of other stuff that's happened before. But because you did not have those video cameras everywhere catching every single moment of what's happening, I think it's just out there way more than it used to be. I mean, I liken it with the weather stuff. People say, well, boy, there seems like there's so many more tornadoes now than there used to be. Well, no, it's not that there are more tornadoes. It's that there's more cameras taking pictures of these tornadoes and more phones. So you see them more often in the media. It doesn't mean that there's more of them. And fans have always been fans. And there's rabid fans. And there's, if you're a Philly fan, you hate a certain team. And if you're a Knicks fan, you hate a certain team. And I just think that's always been there. That's kind of part. If you're a Bears fan, you hate the Packers, vice versa. I just think, in my opinion, that this has always been going on. It's just magnified now more because you can see it a lot more now than you used to be able to.
I agree with you on that. I think, social media has gone crazy. It's also a slow time. So I don't think fans are necessarily going to be all about this all the time. I think it's isolated incidents. There's an idiot here and there. We all know one.
There's always idiots.
Right.
There's always idiots out there.
Right. I mean, and that's what kind of makes it fun. But when you start throwing popcorn and spitting on, players, then, that's when it necessarily goes too far. Now, going to the Tampa Bay Lightning, there was a viral video that surfaced on YouTube. Basically a man who was wearing a Florida Panther shirt or jersey with his 11-year-old, and Tampa Bay Lightning officials were kind of enforcing a rule which was in tax since 2015 to keep the opposing fans out of there. Now they've kind of lifted. It's not kind of, they've lifted that. They're not going to necessarily enforce it. Where do you stand on that issue? Because, as a Tampa Bay sports fan, it's very difficult, especially with hockey, because you have the first six, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Boston Bruins, teams like that come with the opposing fans. And then the Lightning put this policy. There you go. This policy into effect. So how do you feel about it?
Yeah, well, you brought up the Blackhawks. That's when I remember this first happening. Because remember when the Blackhawks were playing the Bolts in the Cup,
yeah,
and that was the series, and the one prior to, I think, where they said, you know what, we're not going to allow the opposing jerseys to come into this building. And there were a ton of Blackhawk fans who were just up in arms about it. And I'll tell you, this is just me, I don't like the policy. I personally think, you know what, if you want to come to let me tell you, if I had a chance to go to a game 7 and it was whoever playing whoever and I was the road team, I'm paying my money to go to the game. I'd still want to be able to wear the colors of my team and wear the jersey because that's my team and I'm going to be prideful in it. And if you go to the Dodgers and you have a San Francisco Giants jersey on, you're probably going to get abused a little bit. That kind of goes with the territory. But I'm not really a fan of just saying, well, no, the home team, only the home team jerseys, we're not going to let you wear it. But again, who am I? It's their game. It's their team. They can do what they want to. But if you ask me, do I think it's right? I don't. I think the visitors should be able to wear it. I just do. Now you're taking your life in your own hands, and you're going to get pelted with anything and everything. One of the first Bucks games I went to, they were playing the Bears, and I brought my son. At that time, he might have been 6 or 7, and it was bad. I mean, there was just yelling and screaming and cussing and throwing everything everywhere. And it was no different than this, and spitting at people. I mean, come on, it's been going on for so long. The difference is that was 20 years ago, and nobody could pick up their phone, hit play, and boom, you've got all of it on tape. It's just the way it is now. You will never get away with anything ever again because there's always somebody watching you. That's just the way I feel.
It really is. And I get it. It's 11-year-old son, but it's a policy. And then he goes on to say, there was a ticket agent named Crystal Ortiz that told him, and so many words, he was able to wear it here. He was not able to wear it there. So the Lightning are not necessarily going to enforce it. In fact, they say the policy impacted roughly 6% of the seats in the arena. With the limited capacity due to COVID now, the policy impacts around 10% of the seats. So, at the end of the day, I think this fan base is so strong. And back then, maybe you enforce that rule. I don't necessarily think you have to enforce it now. And even like you said, if you do have the opposing jersey, more than likely it's going to be sporadic because the Lightning are such a great team. Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. It certainly seems like football season is right around the corner. You got reported workouts at Legends Field from Tom Brady, and then today they're at the facility. Where do you lie on the issue of players working away from the facility? And if they get hurt, should NFL teams still be responsible, or is the NFL right? They should not be responsible for those NFL players if they don't work out in that team facility.
Again, just my opinion. But I think that's ridiculous. I mean, look, if a player comes into camp out of shape, they're going to get abused or they're going to get cut, right? Well, so they have to work out off season. And we all know, I mean, there is not a scheduled routine for players to stay in shape in the off season. You have your OTAs. I mean, you've got the mini camps, you've got all the stuff that goes on up until the summer. But I don't know, this is my opinion, but I personally think if you are a professional athlete and you know that you have to stay in shape every single day of the year and be ready, when the season comes, I personally think they should be covered for any injuries while they are working out. Now, I get it. It's a gray area. I was working out while I was riding. Jeff Kent. Remember Jeff Kent played for the Giants?
The Mets and the Giants, yeah.
Yeah, and he fell off his ATV or whatever it was and really screwed himself up. All right, so at what point do you say, oh, did he really fall off his ATV or did he hurt it lifting? You know, I mean, I get it. There's definitely an area where you have to verify what happened, but it's just my opinion. I think if these guys have to be in shape when they come into camp, then how in the world can you not cover an injury that you're trying to stay in shape when you're getting ready to go to camp? It just doesn't make sense to me. That's just
the whole situation is just weird. I get where the fans are coming from. They're looking at it. The level of play didn't fall off when you did the Zoom meeting. So why should we have to do all these unnecessary workouts? And then, of course, the coaches want, the young players to develop. So they feel like all these reps are necessary. It's just really weird. And, again, at the end of the day, it's football. As long as you stay healthy, as long as you're in shape and you're ready to go when the season starts, I don't know where I stand on it. I really don't.
See, that's an interesting thing you just talked about, because in football, a lot of these contracts are not guaranteed.
Right.
Baseball, a lot of them are. But in football, a lot of these contracts are not guaranteed. So they're even at a bigger risk. If they're trying to work out in the off season because they're on the cusp and they're not sure whether they're going to make the team or not, and they really want to work out because they don't get any money if they don't make that team. and to me, I just think that even motivates them more to work harder and leave you up more toward the risk of injury. I don't like it. I mean, I think it's a bad policy all around. But again, it's not my money. I mean,
hey, that's what we do here on the Sports Web. We pontificate Leo word and give opinions. And if you don't like them, then, get on the phone line, 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. On with ABC Action News is meteorologist Mr. Dennis Phillips, the best meteorologist in the Tampa Bay area. And in my opinion, nationally, the guy knows what he's talking about also when it comes to talking sports. July 6th, the match, once again, going back to last year, it was Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady and Mickelson versus Woods. Now you get the announcement that it's going to be Brady versus Rodgers. All the Rodgers drama. You got Byron Shambo versus Phil Mickelson. How interested are you in this? And goodness gracious, you got to love Tom Brady and the trolling that he does, right?
There's so many things that come into play with that. Because first of all, you remember last year's, I only remember one shot in that entire contest. And it was when Brady holed it out. I mean, and by the way, if you remember, Tom Brady did not play well at all. I mean, he really played pretty horrifically, except for that one shot.
Right.
That's the only one that I remember. And I'm sure that's what he wants everybody to remember, because it was a great shot. But, it's so funny because, I mean, I'm sure a lot of folks here, I'm sure all of them have seen the video from the Golf Channel earlier on when
pants.
Yeah. I mean, it's just got all this drama going on with two guys who apparently hate each other.
Right.
And now Phil Mickelson kind of got in on it a little bit on Twitter, and he kind of stirred the pot a little bit. And then Aaron Rodgers is stirring the pot. So it's really turning into very little about golf and more about all the stuff that's going along with it. Because it is funny. And almost every article I've read, almost every golf article I've read in the last couple of days, they say they love it. I mean, the articles are from, Golf Weekly or whatever the case may be. They're coming out saying this is just what golf needs. It needs this kind of, and I find that kind of funny because you think about it. How many times do you really hear that much about two golfers hating each other and having it getting into the media like it is? I mean, you hear it in almost every other sport all the time, but do you really hear it in golf very often? I can't say that I have.
No, and it makes it really interesting because of the trash talk from Brady. And then, of course, the Rodgers situation. Why not Patrick Mahomes? Obviously, it's Aaron Rodgers because of all the drama right now going on with Green Bay. Well, but why not Patrick Mahomes in this?
Maybe he doesn't play. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have no idea. But I mean, I don't think you go. Honestly, think about it. You've got Mahomes, sure, great quarterback, but Rodgers now has the intrigue. All the people want to know if he's going to stay in Green Bay, if he's going to go to Denver, he's going to go wherever. So it's not just because this is not just a golfing match at all. I mean, because they're mic'd up and you're hearing all the trash talk, and it's going to make it even better this way. And heck, I mean, Aaron Rodgers was doing Jeopardy a couple of months ago, so he's in a lot of different things. And I think probably just from a broadcast perspective, it was probably a bigger draw with Aaron Rodgers than it would be with Pat Mahomes. But you're right. I mean, how could you go wrong either way?
Yeah, I got to ask you this because there's a lot of old school Buccaneer fans out there. This is from Pro Football Talk. The NFL has considered the possibility of dumping the rule that limits players to one helmet per season. Why this comes up is because Bruce Arians said about a year ago, the league at the time responds to the inquiry, there will be no change for the 2020 season. There are ongoing discussions for a potential change for 2021, but no decisions have been made. The reason why I mention this is because basically everybody is frothing at the mouth for Bucco Bruce, which, by the way, look, I wasn't the biggest fan because to me, that symbolized losing at the time, but they love the creamsicle. Do you think they bring back that second helmet, which leads to the Bucs possibly having a game where they have creamsicle this year and have those Bucco Bruce helmets? And where do you stand on the creamsicle? Because there's a lot of fans that love it. And to me, once again, it symbolizes the losing, how many games they lost at the old Sombrero Tampa Stadium and on the road. What do you say?
Yeah, I love the retro look. I don't like it for the whole season, but I mean, even the Rays, think about it. They bring back the old Devil Rays jerseys for a series. The Devil Rays were horrific, but yet it helps. It just creates that tradition that I think a lot of people really like. And you know why? Think about it, because when the Bucs first became a team, I mean, there's all that. That is one of the biggest things you can brag about as a sports fan. Well, I've been following them since the first year. I said it with the Rays. I said it with the Caps because I lived in D.C. in the mid-'70s when they started, when they won 7 games the entire season. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, you know, when you're talking about the creamsicle, it just brings back those. It's like everybody. Oh, remember how it was 40 years ago? I loved life 30 years ago. It stinks now, but it was great then. Remember? And I think it's the same thing with that creamsicle. They forget the fact that they were horrible. They just like the fact that that was a tradition and they were part of that original team and that original look. And I think it would be pretty cool. But again, I like the whole retro thing. I wouldn't want to keep it for the whole year, but I think it's kind of fun. And that's really what I would say. To me, it's just kind of fun. But I didn't know that. Honestly, I didn't know the NFL had that rule that I heard that you're just saying. I did not know that was a rule.
And here's the interesting thing. NFL spokesman Brian McCarthy said that this change, if it happens, requires no discussion or vote among ownership. So theoretically, and this, this possibility is mentioned, the game of the year right now, October 3rd, my birthday, just saying an Patriots, omen, Sunday night, throwback Patriots uniform, throwback Bucs uniform. What's better than that?
That would be sweet. I would love that. Yeah, that would be amazing. Hey, I heard you talking, and I have not heard this anywhere except for what I just heard you guys say. There's nobody saying that Julio's coming to the Bucs, is there?
Yeah, there's webheads. This Troy Polamalu, who I love him to death, King Troy. He's a big-time webhead, big-time fan of the sports web, has been with me since the last platform. He wants Julio Jones. Now, of course, this report was from Diana Rossini saying there's a team out there that's willing to give a first-round pick for a Jones. In my opinion, it's going to be the New England Patriots. What do you say? It's not going to be the Bucs.
I mean, no. It's the last thing the Bucs need. I mean, you could never. And you know what? There's sometimes too much of a good thing. And when you would have everybody, there's only one ball. When you have Godwin and Evans and Gronk and Johnson and AB, who gets a little ticked if they don't throw the ball to him. That's the last thing you need. In my opinion, it's probably one of 3 teams with either. I mean, I know the Titans have been talked about, but I think it's either the Patriots, the Rams, or the Cardinals. I mean, those are kind of I think those are kind of the teams that I think need the receiving team. The Rams, have got a good, Bobby Trees, and Cooper Kupp, and the Cardinals. The Cardinals have been kind of hurting them. They've got Kyrie. I mean, they've got a guy who can throw the ball and move, but all they have is Larry Fitzgerald. Now you imagine having Fitz on one side, and you have you got Julio on the other.
Well, you got DeAndre Hopkins, and you got
Hopkins. Yeah, I meant Hopkins, not Fitz, because Fitz is obviously a free agent now. Yeah, I meant Hopkins. I mean, the guy. It's really interesting because I had him on my fantasy team last year, and D-Hop, he had that one amazing catch to win the game for him at the end of I can't remember, week 8, week 9, whatever it was. But his numbers, while they were good, they weren't D-Hop numbers. And it seemed like because the D could focus on him. They could double cover him. They could set up a D to keep him out of his rhythm. And if you think about it, the Cardinals just didn't have much else to throw to. So you put Hopkins on one side and you put Julio Jones on another. Now that all of a sudden opens up a lot of opportunities for them. So in my opinion, that's the 3. I'm with you. I mean, I do think the Patriots are the top choice, but I think the Rams and the Cardinals are going to be in there too.
Well, I tell you right now, the Rams, Cooper Kupp, they drafted a wide receiver out of Louisville who escapes me, Robert Woods. I mean, they seem like they're pretty set. Cardinals, DeAndre Hopkins added A.J. Green in the offseason. So I don't know.
Green is always hurt. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
Julio only played 9 games last year. Fantasy
got that hamstring.
If he goes to the Patriots or another team, he's not a first-round wide receiver. Where would you draft him? Where's his projection at, in your opinion?
Depends where he goes.
Okay.
It really it depends if he's a number 1 or a number 2. It depends who's throwing it to him. I definitely don't. I with the injury, and you're right. I mean, and you sometimes wonder with him, and I don't know, but you sometimes wonder, he would come out there and throw up 150, 200 yards. 2 years ago, he wasn't getting any of the touchdowns. He was getting a ton of yardage, but he wasn't getting any touchdown receptions. And you just wonder at some point, especially as a player gets a little older, do they push as hard as maybe if they were 23, 24, 25, trying to impress? And do they earn that opportunity or that do they earn the ability to do that because they have paid their dues? I would argue no. You're still getting a paycheck. You should be given 100% all the time. But you wonder, and I at times last year, because Ridley was freaking awesome. And matter of fact, that offense was every bit as productive with Ridley in there, and now that they've added the Florida tight end, I mean, they might have some opportunities to be some pretty decent passing attacks to there. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I think you're right. I think he goes to New England.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Las Vegas is saying right now. In fact, they're the perennial favorite. It would be interesting because I say Rodgers still goes to the Raiders. What happens if Julio is waiting for the Raiders to make that trade with the Packers and Rodgers wants a Julio Jones? Well, what about the Packers getting in on that? Could getting a Julio Jones salvage that relationship with Rodgers, or do you think it's done? Because to me, I think it's done. Everything that has come out lately has not been positive in, a positive aspect for Rodgers to return as the starting quarterback for the Packers. So how do you think that situation plays out?
I think we've talked about this before, and I just get so irritated hearing about all the drama all the time with these players, like what's happening. And maybe, and you have to take it with a grain of salt, because is certain areas of the media, are they taking it and running with something that maybe is kind of lukewarm and not even necessarily a valid quote? Are they kind of adding fuel to the fire? Has Aaron Rodgers really said all these things? Or is it kind of second, third-hand information? I mean, I've seen some of his direct quotes. I get it. And to me, if I were the Green Bay management, I'd say, you know what, whatever. You're under a contract. You get out there and play or you don't get paid. And if he decides that he doesn't get paid, well, then loves your quarterback anyway. But at the end of the day, it's kind of frustrating as a fan to see an athlete of that caliber to just be whining about, well, I didn't have anybody to throw to, or my line wasn't as good, or you didn't draft any receivers. I just get sick of hearing that stuff. I mean, I just do.
That's Aaron Rodgers. And you just kind of wonder when that franchise gets tired of it. And I was listening to Colin Cowherd today, and he was saying the same thing happened with Kevin Durant, how he basically wore out his welcome with the Golden State Warriors. And the reason why you take on all that drama, because he's so talented, but eventually it kind of wears on you. And that's the reason why you let a Durant go, which, consequently, both of those players are overly sensitive, but they're also overly talented. So,
KD wanted to be a weatherman, so I love the guy. And KD, he did. And he actually, if you've ever looked at his Nikes, he's got these weather radar Nikes that are just awesome. I can't afford them, but I can't get them because, Nikes drop like that and they're gone in 5 seconds because you can't buy them anymore. But there's actually another pair, a Kyrie 7 pair, that's based on Kyrie and Kevin Durant, with a whole big radar thing that drops on June 5th at 2:00. So I've already got my phone set, and I'm going to spend all my 3 seconds to try to get those shoes, and I won't be able to. But that's
you're not that old. If you want those type of shoes, my friend, you are definitely not that old. In fact, you're hip, if that's still a word.
Well, Well, it's funny you say that because this last week I went up to New Orleans for my son's graduation, and I was in the airplane and I showed a picture of my New Balance, my dad's shoes, and I posted it on Facebook. And of all the years I've been doing social media, talking about hurricanes, talking about tornadoes, talking about this and that, I never had as many interactions on a post as I did when I started talking about dad shoes. So what does that tell you? It tells you what social media really has become. But, quickly, you were talking about Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's kind of hypocritical for him to be whining about them drafting a quarterback behind him when wasn't he that guy when Brett Favre was the quarterback prior to?
Exactly. There you go. He's been through that situation. He should have already knew. And I know I have Jason Powers, Jason Callback. We're on with Dennis Phillips right now, ABC Action News. We'll get to Mr. Jason Powers here in just a moment. Want to ask you about Tua's comments this week. Is that a red flag? Him basically admitting, I didn't know the playbook. Could there be a possibility that if he struggles, and I'm not sure about him. I wasn't sure about him when he was coming out of Alabama, all the injury red flags. If he struggles, could the Dolphins pull the plug on him quick, much like the Cardinals did with the Josh Rosen, much like the Washington football team did with the Dwayne Haskins, and look to draft another quarterback or trade for one in the offseason next year?
Yeah, that's interesting because remember, midway through the season when Tua was named the starter, after a couple of starts, all of a sudden Fitzmagic came back in. Now, was that injury-based or was that the coach saying, you know what, you're not doing everything that we've told you to do. Either you're not picking up the playbook or you're not giving all that you have to give. And so we're going to put this 39-year-old Harvard quarterback in instead, which, by the way, he somehow finds a way to win sometimes.
Sure.
Which maybe he'll do it with the Washington football team as well this year. But, I still think he's their guy. I just think there's a short leash there. And the coach is pretty much saying, look, maybe I don't know this, but maybe there's a little something that was going on in terms of the relationship where the coach didn't see him giving everything that he wanted to see. And this was kind of his attention-getting device, because outside of that, who else do they really have?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when they drafted him, he was the guy. And now he's got, he's got his receiving core better than it was last year. So you kind of think that it would be a step or two back for the Dolphins to go in another direction now, especially as young as Tua is. I mean, he's still a kid.
Yeah, he still is a kid, and I feel like quarterback development is really lacking unless it's, of course, the Packers. They take a couple years, and who knows about this Love kid. But obviously, he's not ready to get on the field, because if he were, then I think, the Packers would be willing to trade a Rodgers, and they haven't. So that tells me everything I need to know. All right, my friend, thanks a lot. Once again, go ahead and promote yourself here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television on I Love St. Pete and the Notoriety Sports Network.
Always a good time. Appreciate being here. Again, ABC Action News 5, 5:36, and 11. And Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I haven't got on TikTok yet, but my kids are swearing I should. So I don't know. Maybe that's my next thing. But they can find me. I've been here for a long, long time. So I appreciate you asking me to stop by. It's always a good time.
Absolutely. I love doing this every Friday night, kind of take a look around, not just talk about the Bucs, but of course, all the Tampa Bay sports teams. And once again, it's going to pick up again. You got the Tampa Bay Lightning on Sunday versus the Carolina Hurricanes. So we'll see you soon. Mr. Dennis Phillips, meteorologist of ABC Action News. Thanks a lot for your time here on the Sports Web. All right.
Sounds good, Peter. Have a good one.
All right, there you go. Mr. Dennis Phillips, one of the best, if not the best meteorologist I know, absolutely comes correct when he's on the Sports Web. Talking about all the Tampa Bay sports. Talking about it. Love it. And I heard something in the background. I don't know what that was all about. I have no idea what that was about. We're supposed to have Ricky Reynolds on. Guy's a busy man, so we'll see if we can get him back on another time. Let's go ahead and read these comments and take your phone calls, because this is what I hear tonight. Was the sports talk, was the monologue that bad? Actually, let's go out to Jason Powers really quick. I'll tell you what, Jason, I'm going to put you on hold here. Stand by. Let me go ahead and mute you. Let me read these comments, and then we will get out to Mr. Jason Powers. Powers on Sports Podcast. I was on it the other night. A good time. We're going to try to work on getting him on video. And like I said, we were expecting Ricky Reynolds, but stuff happens, so we just move on here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television live on the Notoriety Sports Network, and I Love St. Pete. Let's go ahead and read these comments. Any news about the greatest Tom illustrious Brady? Just that he was working out at the facility today with no coaches, with 10 teammates, according to Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Ray's winning culture is just in the locker room, not in the ownership room. Agree with that. It's so unfair. Alex, I know you called before, so we'll get you back on. Again, if you want to call up, transportation is a major issue in Tampa Bay, especially the bridges. Trop is in terrible location. Troy says, in Tampa, we support the Yankees, my friend. Well, that's probably... I mean, you can do that, but I'm all about the Tampa Bay teams. I told you the story of my father on Monday, right? When I went on my Rays rant. Dad sent me down. He said, you're going to like this team. You're going to like this team. You're going to like this team. You're grounded. You leave the house if you don't. I mean, it's just that simple. So if you have kids out there, whether you're a Yankee fan or not, and you're in the Bay Area, it should be your responsibility to make them Rays and Lightning and Bucks fans. But it's difficult because we talked about the ownership over there, and I'm not going to go through it again. I'm done with it. Come back to it another time. We'll get out to Jason Powers in a moment. Your owner is a part-time. I agree. And we talked about it. He wants his part-time lover. All right, Jason, stand by. Let me read the rest of these comments, and we'll get to you. All right, it's not the Rays management. It's your terrible owner. Roger Shue, the troll bag himself. Dub Bears. No troll. Love that guy. Great show. Thank you very much. Troy Polamayu. Creamsicle. We need all black and red uniforms. Come on. Enough with the black and red uniforms. We're not the Atlanta Falcons. Somebody says, hello. I don't know who that is. I think that's Lady B. Nita. Thank you very much for tuning in, I believe. And Taylor Allen says, Peta, good to have you back. Appreciate you. Everything's open tonight. You want to talk Rays Stadium situation and ownership? You can. You want to talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning? You can. If you want to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the 2-helmet rule, could that be the return of Bucko Bruce and the creamsicle? What about the workouts? What about the matchup on July 6th? Anything is on the table. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. Let me go out to Jason Powers. Jason, welcome to the Evolution of Sports Talk Television once again. Powers on Sports Podcast. Got on. Good times here. Give me your thoughts on this Lightning situation facing the Carolina Hurricanes on Sunday, and talk about that series versus the Florida Panthers. Welcome to the Sports Web, boss.
Pete, how you doing, man? Sorry, we're gonna get this video squared away. I promise, one of these days.
I hope so, by next year sometime, or by when the year starts. We need to do it.
That's right, man.
So
let's get to some Lightning action. Yes. You want to know? I think Game 1 is going to be a advantage Lightning because of the Carolina Hurricanes will have played 4 straight overtime games. So with the quick turnaround here, I think the fatigue level could be a little bit of a factor. On the road, you're going into a hostile environment. If you've seen Carolina on TV, they've had a full house. I think that'll be a little bit of an issue for the Lightning. But again, I think Vasilevsky has a big advantage between the pipes and with the rookie goaltender for Carolina. And I think the rest component, getting Kucherov back, getting Sergachev back, mostly healthy, I think that's going to be an advantage for the Lightning in Game 1.
That's definitely been the advantage throughout this series. Kucherov and Stamkos on the power play. And, of course, Vasilevsky the other night with 29 saves to defeat the Panthers 4-0. Second playoff shutout. So this team right now is definitely, look, they had their tough series versus the Panthers. And, of course, the Hurricanes during the season gave them a lot of tough times. We talked about the fan situation. Do you feel like the Lightning should enforce that rule, or should they be a little bit lax on it? Because that viral video came out of the Panther fan with his 11-year-old son, and the Lightning officials were threatening with Tampa PD. I mean, we're kind of getting a little ridiculous here. The Lightning did the right thing by not enforcing this rule, right?
I agree. I mean, you can't. I mean, I know the intention is you want your fans sitting in your good seats, but please, Peter. I mean, if you and I are willing to pay the money to buy an expensive ticket in another team's arena, are you kidding me? We should be escorted out because we're wearing a Philadelphia Eagles jersey or a Tampa, or, Carolina Panther jersey. Please, come on, Jeff Vinik. We're better than that. Sure, I understand you don't want 10,000 Carolina fans in the building, but if me and you are sitting in the nice seats because we're willing to pay the money, give me a break. Don't be messing with me as the fan unless I'm unruly and saying stuff that's out of line.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, look, I understand why they did it in 2015 because of the Chicago Blackhawks. I still understand why the Lightning are doing it, but because, there's COVID protocols and there's not as many fans and you want as many fans as possible. Yeah, I get the Lightning not doing it. First, it's also bad PR for them. They're one of the greatest organizations, if not the greatest organizations in all of professional sports. With all that being, go ahead.
Let me add this, Pete. The Lightning fans are the ones selling the tickets. It's not like these are Carolina Hurricane fans
This has always upset me. If you're a Lightning fan, if you're a Bucks fan, if you're a Rays fan, do not sell tickets to the enemy.
Well,
no.
I mean, but you don't know you don't know who the hell they're rooting for when you sell them the ticket online.
Well, I mean just kind of ask them, I guess. I mean, I get it. You need money, possibly. I'm not in your life, but that's the enemy. If you're selling to the enemy, that's disappointing. You're exactly right, though. I guess some fan wouldn't have to necessarily tell you.
Yeah,
you kind of investigate a little bit, if you will. And
I'm not going to. Peter, if you ask me who I'm rooting for, I'm going to lie to you and tell you I'm rooting for the Lightning, even though I might be a Flyers fan or an Islanders fan. I mean, I'm not going to, because then you're going to try to gouge me with the ticket price by jacking up the price of the ticket another $20 a ticket. I'm not going to tell you that.
Exactly. All right. So, what do you think about this Rays Stadium situation? We talked ad nauseum with Dennis about it. Saw what he standed on it. Where do you stand on it? You have lawsuits from the minority owners. Now you have Tampa Bay in the mix, and there's a story now that the Rays could be headed to Nashville. I mean, what do you make of this mess?
I mean, this stadium situation has been brewing for several years now. I mean, we've been fighting the St. Pete government, the city council in Tampa, the government. We've been fighting for 3-4 years now, trying to come up with a stadium site. And are they going to play in Tampa? Are they going to play in St. Pete? I mean, this is just the culmination of a lot of chaos when it comes to the bureaucracy of trying to build a stadium and trying to get funding and land and who's going to pay for it and all that. And it's always been a fight between these two cities. It's just been for 25 years. Tampa's always been pissed at St. Pete because they have the team. St. Pete's never going to say, I'm going to let the team go to Tampa because St. Pete's kind of the stepbrother to Tampa. So it's just something that's going to be an ugly end, unfortunately. And they're leaving unless we build them a new stadium. And they're not going to be leaving in 2027. To me, they're going to be leaving in the next 2 to 3 years if there's not a stadium deal in place, probably in the next 12 months would be my guess.
And to me, I don't think they can, because if you have a lease until 2027, I don't care what Major League Baseball wants to do. St. Pete, they have to dig in. They have to dig in. They have to start, trying to sue Major League Baseball and Stu Sternberg if they try to violate this lease. The thing that I get out of it reading this article on the lawsuit from the minority owners is that Stu has been talking to Montreal not since 2017. What they contend is 2014. So to me, it goes back to what Rick Kreisman was saying, the mayor of St. Pete. He's saying, I'm not dealing with the Rays anymore, and Stu should step down. Does he have a point?
Stu Sternberg ain't stepping down as the owner of the Rays. Sorry about that.
Right.
Sorry, Rick. They've had, if Rick Kreisman wants the Rays so bad, get a stadium approved in St. Pete. Get it done.
Well, the problem is the idea of the whole sister situation won't be dropped.
I get it, but still, I mean, this problem has been festering for years. And what's St. Pete's end game? If the Rays say, I don't care if we have to stay till 2027, we're leaving. Why would St. Pete look bad and make them stay till 2027 if MLB is willing to write St. Pete a check for X number of $1 million to get them out of their lease?
Well,
why is St. Pete gonna be the sourpuss and say to the Rays, we know you're leaving in 3 or 4 years. screw you, we're going to make you stay.
Well, because it's a lease and you have to follow it. You can't be talking to other cities, and that's my major problem with it. If you're under a lease, how can you talk to other cities or entertain the idea, whether it's half a year or not? By the way, where do you lie on that idea? Is that stupid to you? Because to me, look, I get it. You keep the Rays here, but you only keep them here when baseball really doesn't matter. I mean, it's the beginning part of the season because baseball is so long, and then Montreal gets the rest. So basically, Montreal gets the Rays, and then if they get in the playoffs, then they play the majority of the games in Montreal. How's that fair to Rays fans here? I don't get it.
Oh, that's not going to happen. They're not. I don't think MLB and the other in the organization will allow that to. I won't say the organization because they wanted it to happen. I don't think that's going to happen because you're right. That's going to be a major black eye on the whole organization. It's going to be sticking it right in the you know what of the Tampa Bay fans and the Bay Area fans, not even the Tampa Bay, just the whole Bay Area fans, fan base. And here's the problem: if the team leaves under bad terms, there's zero chance they will ever get a team again. Wow. Not that they're going to get a team again anyway, baseball wise. But if they were to leave in an ugly situation, the Bay Area would never see another Major League Baseball team under any circumstance.
And as crazy as it sounds, because I've said some pretty crazy things here on the sports web, if Major League Baseball takes away the Rays, then as a consumer or as those principality cities, I would tell Major League Baseball, I no longer want anything to do with spring training. We're on with Jason Powers here, Powers on Sports podcast here. That's what I would say.
They're not going to do that because it's all the money of spring training, right? Of what that, so that'll never happen.
Right,
but
of course,
but I get your point of saying screw you MLB. But I mean, it's just kill. I mean, we're in such a tough spot because, like you said, the two cities keep fighting, and there's never going to be an amicable solution, most likely, to this situation. Because if they move to Tampa, then everybody in St. Pete says, "Well, we've been the home team for 25 years. Now you're moving them across the Bay, and Tampa doesn't want to. Tampa's not going to fork over $1 billion or $700 million to build a stadium without without Sternberg and MLB sharing the cost, probably 60-40 at least.
Yeah, but that's been my whole problem with it. If you want a stadium, at least pay half for it. I'll come halfway. But if you want me to pay for the majority of it, and then on top of it, you want this sister city deal, so you still want a stadium built here in Montreal. It's like you want your cake and eat it too. I hate the whole situation with Stu owning this team, and I'll just continue to scream at the rooftops about it.
I mean, I get your point, but what precedent has there been for the owner to be paying half the tab? I mean, sure, in a perfect world, would the owners pay the half the tab? I get it, but from a
revenue a new stadium, I mean, can you honestly see a city right now with everything that the United States has been through with their respective cities with the pandemic? Can you honestly believe that somebody could sell taxpayers on paying for a stadium with taxpayers' money with everything going on with the pandemic? I can't see another city trying to fork over nearly $1 billion for a new stadium. It's a tough sell.
Oh, and there's no doubt about it. But I would be pretty confident that Montreal and Nashville would foot the bill for a stadium if the Rays were coming.
And the thing is, at Montreal, when they had baseball, which they lost baseball, by the way, only averaged 17,000. So, I mean, how much of a bump? I just don't understand the whole situation. You're the 11th largest market. You have one of the biggest TV markets. You have all the TV ratings in the world, and yet you have an owner who's so disappointed, who expects to put very little into the product and everybody to come out. I get it. They're talented. I get it. They've been somewhat competitive, but I look at the Florida Marlins, 2 World Series championships, Arizona Diamondbacks, 1 World Series championship. And why, Jason? Because they went all in, and the Rays have never done that. And that is the difference with the fan bases for the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Tampa Bay Bucks. They have gone all in when they needed to do it, and the Rays have not.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I would push back with this question. If you're Stu Sternberg, when I have put a championship product on the field, Have I gotten more than 15, 20,000 people in those seats in August and September the last 3, 4, 5 years when I've been in the hunt? The answer is no. They're still getting 10 and 12,000 in September and August when they are in a pennant race. So Sternberg has a little bit of a beef and a justified complaint with the fan base here in the Bay Area, because when he has put a winning product on the field, the fans still haven't shown up.
Well, and I would say this, Stu, if you would shut your mouth as a blue-collar sports fan, I would go out and support your products. Stu, if you would spend over $100 million like the normal teams do, I don't know, $115 million instead of talking about every year how we're going to get rid of fan favorites. And I get it. You guys are the smartest people in the room by getting rid of all these fan favorites and the David Price and the Carl Crawford and Evan Longoria. But if you're trying to build a foundation for a fan base, you don't see the great teams that are consistent, usually the Yankees and the Red Sox. They have more world championships than the Rays. They're going all in. They're spending as much money. Look, it doesn't always equate to wins. What it equates to is giving the fan base hope and saying, I'm in it to win it, much like the Bucks and the Lightning have done the last couple of years.
Don't dispute what you're saying, but I'll give you a great example.
Yeah.
Here in the last 2 weeks, the Rays have won 13 out of 14 or whatever the number is, an incredible winning streak.
Mm-hmm.
What's been the average attendance the last 2 weeks in Rays home games?
Well, it's limited fan base. That's not fair.
Okay, but has it been sold out? Have they sold every ticket that they could sell?
I think, again, it's been limited fan base, so it's not a fair comparison. But I will go back to this. When the Rays were playing the Astros in the playoffs, did they have a problem selling that out?
I mean,
no, they didn't. They didn't.
I would hope you could sell out.
They didn't. You know why? Because baseball matters, and every time you get rid of a fan favorite and you cut salary, it gives the fans the inclination, because I'm a fan, that you don't give a crap. And that's what it comes down to.
There's arguments to be made on both sides. I'll give you an example.
Sure.
Back when the Buccaneers were really, when the Glazers bought the Buccaneers, 3 or 4 years into their ownership, the reason Raymond James Stadium got built was not because the Glazers paid any money towards that stadium, because they basically strong-armed the Tampa Sports Authority in the city of Tampa to say, you either build us a new stadium or we're gone.
Fair point.
And what did the city of Tampa do? They built them a brand new stadium, paid for every penny of it.
And then the Glazers also brought back a championship. So
I get it, but they still, when the nuts were on the table as far as moving or not, the argument was, why aren't the Glazers paying their fair share of the stadium cost?
Right.
Because that's, unfortunately, that's the world of sports entertainment and sports construction that we're in. Is most of the time the city is going to foot most of the bill, and that's unfortunate. But usually for that kind of stuff to happen, when you're getting strong, I mean, a city like Oakland, they're in the same boat with the A's.
Terrible.
Why did they lose the Raiders? Because they wouldn't build them a new stadium.
Right.
That's exactly why the Raiders are in Las Vegas.
Well, good stuff there from Jason Powers on Sports Podcast. Let me read these comments. Stunning says Stu is actually garbage, though. I agree with that. I'm going to fire the cannons because I agree. No, I'm not a Stu fan at all. Man, I need 2 or 3 devices going because I've got shows that I like on at the same time. I just love any kind of football and other sports content. Christopher, stay right here on the Notoriety Sports Network and I Love St. Pete. Don't you dare go to that other show. Don't you do it. Yes, they have the guy, and Alex, definitely call back here. Again, we got Jason Powers on. Let me go to this 2-helmet rule. I don't know if we what do you think about Bucco Bruce coming back? And they were mentioning this on Pro Football Talk. And by the way, they don't have to vote. Owners don't have to vote on this. They could just bring it back, the 2-helmet rule. And of course, that's been the big controversy. The reason why the Bucs haven't gone to throwbacks, they're not able to use that Bucco Bruce. But what would you think of the possibility of the Bucs bringing back the creamsicle, the Bucco Bruce helmet against the New England Patriots Week 4, a retro game? What would you think about that?
Oh, I'd have no problem with it. I think it's cool to have one time a year a retro look. You know, one of the best uniforms in all of sports are when the Chargers wear their baby blues, when they wear those baby blue old school jerseys and helmets with the lightning bolt on the side. Those are some of the coolest jerseys and helmets you'll see. why they don't do that. I mean, they do it in every other sport where they have retro hats or retro uniforms, or they do stuff for like a weekend like this on Memorial Day, they'll wear camo hats and camo shirts. Let a team wear an old school, uniform design 1 week a year. And especially in an impact game like that, they'll sell merchandise out of the what if they'll have a Bucko Brew shirt for that game in New England.
All right, Todd Bowles was talking to the media this week, and he says even with 22 starters returning, it's still a different team. It's a different team. We tweaked some things for us to get better. We know some things that hurt us. As a team, we have to regel, redo our chemistry and everything else to try to get better from there and start from the bottom up. I think if we go into the season saying that we're top dog, we already lost. We're starting at the bottom, and we're going to work our way back up. I don't think anything can help us. We had a lot of injuries this year. After that, I think we ended the season with 3 defensive starters playing, but I don't think we can go back to last year. We have to go forward to this year. The prevailing thought here with this Tampa Bay Buccaneer team, even though they've signed all their players, is they're basically starting over from scratch. What are your thoughts of that whole mindset? This is the right mindset, right, for the Bucs?
Absolutely, because as much as we as the fans think things are just going to pick up right where they left off back in Super Bowl 55, we are nuts. They are not just going to roll out there and all of a sudden be the same dominant. I mean, they might be, but you have to reboot every year. Every player's motivation level changes when you win a championship. Guys are at different stages of their career. A year older, you have older players that are a year older. You have younger, hungry guys guys like that are in the secondary for us that are a year closer to a new contract. So motivation and levels of commitment change every single year, even if everybody comes back. And granted, Super Bowl, there's always that this, Peter, the Super Bowl hangover. As much as we think it's going to be great and we're just going to roll out there and kick everybody's that's not going to most likely happen. There's going to be struggles. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be, lack of productivity by certain guys that we think are supposed to play well or not going to play well. Those things are going to happen. And it's how, like Todd Bowles says, how does the chemistry develop starting at the mini camp next month and these OTAs that are starting this week? It's a whole new year, guys. I mean, don't think we're just going to pick up right where we left off in Super Bowl 55.
Well, with that being said, Peter King had some comments on why his personal rankings, his power chart, he has the Chiefs number 1 and the Bucs number 2. Let me go ahead and play this segment. Let me mute you here really quick. Stand by. Again, this is Peter King talking about why he has the Bucs at number 2 and the Kansas City Chiefs at number 1 here on the Sports Web live on the Notoriety Sports Network. And I love St. Pete. Enjoy.
I think that the Super Bowl was obviously the culmination of an absolutely great run for the Buccaneers. But as much as we all want to say, oh my God, they've got everybody back, is that's never happened before. Is that a good thing? How do we know? I mean, how do we know that is the best way to do it? Do you want to do that? If you're Jason Light, should you have done that? Almost certainly yes. But what effect does it have on team chemistry when your locker room is pretty much exactly the same as it just was? Because that's the way this team is going to be. Secondarily, I just think when I think about that Super Bowl game and I think of Patrick Mahomes getting hit, sacked, and pressured 29 times in that game, never having a moment's peace in the pocket or even out of the pocket last year in that Super Bowl. When I think of that, I say, what happens if instead of having the 32nd best offensive line in the NFL that day, what happened if they had the 12th, which I don't know what their number is right now, but they have replaced 4 of the 5 starters from the Super Bowl. And I think they're going to be significantly upgraded on the offensive line. So would that have been a, whatever it was, 31-9 game if the Kansas City Chiefs had even a representative offensive line in the game? It wouldn't have been a 22-point game. I can tell you that much. But look, we're all looking for something at this time of year, Mike, to say, hey, listen, here's how I projected. Here's what I think. Here are the teams that I think could rise. And I mean, that's why I take an LA Chargers team and I put them at 10. I see an awful lot of things that I like in the Chargers right now. That's why I put the Browns 4. For the first time since I've been covering, since I've been covering the league, all right, say in about 1989, I look at the Browns and I don't see a glaring weakness. That's never happened before. And that's why I put them so high in these rankings. So I don't know, you try to make guesses and you try to make projections. So that's all they are. And it gets people mad on Twitter for a couple of days, and then everybody forgets it.
Let me put a pin in the Browns discussion for a second.
All right, so welcome back to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web. That was Peter King from NBC Sports, ProFootballTalk.com. I mean, he basically just said nothing. The reason why I'm predicting the Bucs to be number 2 in my power rankings is because they brought back everybody. Should they have done that? That's never been done before. Jason, how is that a bad thing with bringing back all your players? Explain that to me. I've heard it all.
It's not a bad thing. I will agree. It's not a bad thing, but a good one thing you would always wonder though, isn't it always fresh to have a couple of pieces of new blood that enter the building, whether it's from a motivational or whether just a new voice of couple different guys. I mean, again, I don't have any complaints of us bringing back everybody because they were all worthy of being brought back for the most part. But I think it's always good to have a couple of new, fresh pieces into the locker room.
Well, they do. It's called Giovanni Bernard, and we'll get to his comments in a moment. I mean, it's not like, they just brought back everybody, but they added to it. So they actually got better. And then on top of it, the thing that nobody is really considering is the fact that Brady and that momentum in the second half of the year, how comfortable he was in that offense, he's going to be just that much more comfortable because he has the reps in this offseason and he knows the offense.
I agree with that. I mean, all their quality practice time over at Yankee State at Legends Field this week.
Well, they practice also, it wasn't an official OTA, but they practice at the facility today because, BA suggested that 10 teammates.
I got you. There you go. No, but I mean, you make a great point. It's historical that we've been able to do this. Usually from a salary cap perspective, some other team comes in and poaches 2 or 3 guys off your championship team, if not more than that. It's what we're fortunate, I think, from a Buccaneers perspective, is that a high majority of our free agents this year were the older players. Was Sue, it wasn't the younger guy. It wasn't a Carlton Davis. It wasn't a Bunting. It wasn't the Devin White kind of guy where a team's going to overpay for a guy like him. All of our guys, a lot of our older guys, the Levante Davids, the Sues, those Donovan Smith, even his deal got redone. Leonard Fournette, those are the older guys that, they could have got a couple more dollars probably at another location, but they want to be in the championship environment that Brady's helped create.
All right, let's go out to Giovanni Bernard. His comments this week in his presser. For me, I do consider myself in a way a rookie. Coming here into Tampa, obviously not knowing that many people on the team, just getting accustomed to a new football team. Not even only that, but just with the precautions of COVID and everything, it's just a little different in just how OTAs are working out this year. It just makes it a little bit more difficult. So for me, the more I can be around the players, the more I can be around the staff, the more I can be around the facility, the better I'll be. I'm just going to really consider myself a rookie just because in a way I am just very new. But yet at the end of the day, it's still football. So the more reps, the more repetitions that I can get with anybody, I'm all for it. That should be the attitude, I feel like, of every football player, and especially Bernard, who's most likely going to have a big part in this offense, especially being that James White type of player. What do you think of his comments, and what do you think his overall impact on this offense is going to be in 2021?
I mean, sure, in a perfect world, he's going to be the third down back. I mean, if he's getting carries at the expense of Ronald Jones and Fournette, then we're stupid. I don't think he should be getting touches in the running game. His values, like you said, is going to be in the passing game, pass protection, maybe even as a kick returner. Mm-hmm. Again, he's had a history of not being able to stay healthy, though. Correct. He's not been a guy that's been able to play 16 games.
Correct.
And so that makes me nervous. But as a bit player, as a third down bit kind of guy, I think he'll be a good addition. And I think it's just good to have some new blood in the building, even though it's a marginal player. He's not an super impact player, I don't think. But I think it's just good to have some new blood in the building. And like I said, he's going to be at these OTAs and all these workouts because say what you want, I don't think he's guaranteed a spot on the roster. Now, we all think he's going to make it.
Oh, I definitely think he's going to be on this roster. I think they're happy with their running back room. In fact, you're going to go with the victim of volume. And Ronald Jones, by the way, I trademarked that. That's my motto. So anybody tries to steal that, thank you very much. You got Leonard Fournette, Lombardi, Lenny, of course, off the momentum of the postseason and Super Bowl. You got Keyshawn Vaughn. You got Bernard. So I think they're very happy with their running back room. I don't see a trade, just like their tight end room. I think they're very happy. And I think, look, they're going to pick and choose. And like you said, all these running backs have one thing in common. A lot of these running backs get hurt a lot. So you have to have a complement of those backs to do different specific things. And of course, Bernard is going to very much help Brady in the passing game.
No, again, you make a good point, but I would say, think about it. We have basically have four tailbacks. I don't see four tailbacks being active every Sunday.
Wow.
Either Bernard or Keyshawn Vaughn. Most likely, one of those two is not going to be active every week.
I think it could be Vaughn. I think you could be onto something Vaughn may not necessarily see. Who knows, though? Again, I think all these running backs have something. And if one of the tailbacks, say a Jones or a Fournette, goes down, then you have to depend on a Vaughn. But you're exactly right. I mean, maybe they don't dress that many. Maybe they do. It just depends on, how they feel about it. But I think Vaughn more than likely, even though we've heard from BA in the offseason how excited he is to put him in this offense and how he's making strides of catching the ball more and working on his blocking, I feel like if that's the player, he most likely will be, the one that's, not seeing the time on Sundays. But it remains to be seen at this point. Let me ask you this, and then I'll get you out of here. Jason Powers of Powers on Sports Podcast. Once again, go ahead and promote this and tell people out there where they can listen to it.
Oh, no, man. First of all, I want to compliment you, man. You came on, I interviewed you, and I also interviewed our buddy TJ Reeves. You did a great job.
Thank you.
We cut it up about the NHL playoffs, basketball playoffs. We talked about fans in the arena. We talked about A-Rod in Green Bay, all the football stuff going on. So check out the podcast. Just got released today, actually. You can check it out. It's an easy listen. It's a great listen. Powers on Sports Podcast, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, all of your major podcast platforms. Search the Powers on Sports Podcast. You'll get to hear me and Peter talk for about 40 minutes. Me and TJ Reeves, the voice sideline reporter for the Buccaneers, talk for about 30 minutes. Just a real good listen as you go into the Memorial Day weekend. Remember, subscribe, rate, and review, and obviously get back here to the sports web. You're doing a great job, man. I appreciate you having me.
Hey, absolutely. Let me ask you a couple more questions, and then we'll get you out of here on this Friday night. Once again, thanks a lot for your time here on the Notoriety Sports Network. I love St. Pete. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Julio Jones, Diana Rossini of ESPN says there's a team out there, a mystery team, that's willing to give up a first-round pick to the Falcons to get Jones. In your opinion, is it the New England Patriots? Or is it another team? Speculate.
I mean, I think the Patriots are going to be in the mix. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. If you think about it, if you're giving up a first-round draft pick and you're anticipating drafting in the 20s, is that big a price to pay for a guy, Julio Jones, who's one of the probably top 20 or 30 receivers of all time?
Good point.
A draft pick in the 20s is not a big – nowadays, that's not a big – give, especially if you could get 2 to 3 years out of Julio at a pretty reasonable salary cap number. I mean, two teams I like. New England's a great option, and I think the Tennessee Titans, where Arthur Smith used to coach, they've got that relationship. They lost Chris Davis. They lost Jonnu Smith. They think they're contenders, and if you pair him up with A.J. Brown, that's a pretty damn good 1-2 punch at receiver.
Yeah, but it seems like the Titans could be a long shot from all reports, but who knows? I think it's going to be the Patriots or somebody out there. Who knows? Maybe the Raiders. I keep on throwing them out there, but John Gruden, he needs weapons. He loves veteran presence like a Jones, so that would make sense. And, of course, I don't think this deal gets done until June 1st because of the salary cap implications. It's been announced on July 6th, the match between Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Phil Mickelson, Shambo. Any interest in this? I'm not a golf fan. I really don't watch a lot of golf, but I'll watch this event because I feel like Tom Brady is probably the best trash talker in sports. He's kind of like Michael Jordan. They have the competitive spirit. They have the championships, that competitive fire. and they always love to talk trash. I feel like Jordan, if he were in this era right now playing in the NBA, he would be on Twitter talking trash to every NBA player out there. Brady is awesome at this. Any interest?
I mean, again, I'm with you. I mean, I like to watch the pros play. I don't know how much I don't think I'm going to be watching this for 18 holes, but what would be interesting is if there was a move that the Packers made and traded him before this event, then I think Brady and Rodgers would get it back and forth with the trash talk. Because I don't. What I would love to hear is if Tom Brady ever brought up, "Hey, what's your beef in Green Bay?" and blah. If he would have do that, but Rodgers will never answer that on the air. They're going to be mic'd up and all that. But that's the beef I would love to hear is if Rodgers gets traded to a Denver or a Las Vegas, then all the banter back and forth between Brady, Rodgers, and Phil Mickelson would be epic because there would be some shots fired if Rodgers had been traded to another team at that point.
And he goes on to say 2 champions versus a scientist and a Jeopardy host. This was reported on ProFootballTalk.com. They're saying that Rodgers could actually retire this year and come back. Do you see Rodgers retiring?
Please.
I mean, this saga, I feel like we should be playing like these are the days of our lives. Sands through the hourglass. The Aaron Rodgers soap opera keeps rolling on. I mean, could Rodgers retire?
Please, bro. Please, man. I was watching Pro Football Talk this morning. They said if he retires, he has to give back about $15 million in bonus money and then not get his $14 or $15 million salary for this year. If you think Rodgers is writing Green Bay a check for $15 million and then not getting 15 more million, you're out of your mind. Rodgers, if he doesn't get traded, he will be disgruntled. He may hold out until the 2 days before the regular season opener. I can see that happening, but there's no way Aaron Rodgers is retiring, in my opinion.
All right, I got to read some of these comments here. Okay, let's go out to Troy. Bring back the chrome helmets. Did you like those chrome helmets?
When they played, you talking about when they played Denver?
No, they had the chrome helmets. The Bucs had the chrome helmets.
Oh, yeah. I didn't love that. I actually liked the uniform they played this year out in Denver. They had kind of that off pewter color.
Love it.
I actually thought that was a pretty cool design there. But I don't like the chrome. I'd love to see them play in that off pewter one game and then a Bucco Bruce orange version of the orange one game too.
We could be getting closer to that. Absolutely. Heck yeah. You're the reason I started watching sports talk shows on Facebook. Love you, Christopher Cole. Thank you very much. We still might add a few pieces after the cut down and injuries will happen. Agree with you on that. The Bucs team and Jason Light are never done wheeling and dealing. They're always looking to improve. We're going to make it to the Super Bowl and then lose to Tebow. I think you're trolling me. So I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Peter,
yes.
Did you see the great blocking techniques of Tim Tebow on video today? I saw some video of Tebow blocking in OTAs. He looked like a well-oiled machine.
I'm telling you, he looks big. I mean, that guy's jacked. I don't care what anybody says. I'm rooting for Tim Tebow. And I'm a Florida State fan, and I'm rooting for that guy because everybody's rooting against him. There's no way Tebow can make it. There's no way he can do it. There's no way he can contribute. He's too old. They said the same damn thing about Tom Brady last year. So I cannot wait to see Tim Tebow in a Jaguar uniform contributing this year. Stephanie Wells says, I have to agree with Powers. So that would be.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
That's Austin Powers right there. Jason Powers. Think chestnut checkers, talent as little as it could be used for success. Stephanie goes also, Rodgers has a wedding to plan. He may retire. He does have a wedding to plan. Is he going to retire because of that? Is he that sensitive? I get it. You know, he's got a Hollywood starlet, if you will. I believe her name is Sherry Woodley. Shailene Woodley.
Did you see all the pictures of them out in Honolulu, out in Hawaii this week?
Absolutely, having a good old time. That's what you do when you're making that much money, I guess.
Yeah,
and you don't want to show up.
So. Yeah, I get you. I get it. I mean, wedding. Yeah, that Wells comment. She might be a wedding planner. I wonder if she's a wedding planner.
Well, she's a fan of you. She said she's agree with Powers. So every time somebody says I agree with Powers, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, baby.
There you go, man.
Exactly. You're getting a fan base here on the Sports Web. Peter, you're the best on this platform. Got to find a better way to get the word out. I don't know if you're on here unless I stumble upon it. Bucks report notifications worked flawlessly. I don't know. We'll work on it. I really appreciate you guys as always. Cat 2012 NC, one of my biggest fans on there. Stephanie also says Shailene Woodley. Good Lord, guys. She says Shailene Woolley. I thought it was Woodley. I thought it was Woodley.
It's Woodley, Wells. Come on.
Yeah, well, so you got that wrong. So I'm gonna. Where's let's see here. Let me see if I can find something. I was not gonna be mean, but I guess I'm gonna go ahead and
don't be mean to the fans, Peter. You gotta keep the fans
all right. I won't do that. I love the fans out there. All right, go ahead and wrap this up. Once again, go ahead and promote the podcast once again here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television, my friend.
All right, I gotta ask you one more thing before I promote the podcast.
Yes.
Is your boy Adam Vinatieri, first ballot Hall of Famer, who just retired this week?
Absolutely, but I'm not sure if he will be, because a guy like a Devin Hester, who I talked to just a couple of months earlier, and I said, look, sell me on why you should be in the Hall of Fame. Vinatieri should be in, but because of the way the NFL looks at special teams, I'm not sure if he gets in first ballot, but he absolutely deserves to be in it. Not only consistency, longevity, and the big clutch kicks that he made for the Patriots, you just can't put a price on. He absolutely deserves to be first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, he will be. I'm a former. I don't think I ever told you this, Pete. I'm a former college kicker, so I'm all about the kickers and the punters. He is absolutely a first ballot Hall of Famer. He made the greatest kick in NFL history with the kick in the snow against the Raiders, that with the tuck rule game, the greatest kick, and he's won. What has he won? 4 Super Bowls, 3 with the New England, and 1 with the Colts.
With the Colts, Tony Dungy, Peyton Manning.
If he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, that's criminal. And Devin Hester's great, but at the impact that Vinatieri's had for the length of time that he's had, and with the championship production that he's had, he's got to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt about it.
All right, good stuff. Jason Austin Powers, I got to do it again. It's
baby.
So funny.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for your time here on the Sports Web, the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. All right, boss?
Check us out, Powers on Sports Podcast, man. I appreciate the time, Peter. Have a great Memorial Day weekend, everybody. And y'all see you next week.
Yeah,
Friday night.
Absolutely. Friday nights here on the Notoriety Sports Network. Built different. And, of course, I love St. Pete. Thanks a lot, bud.
Thanks, Peter. Have a great weekend.
All right, there you go. Good stuff. And it is a 3-day weekend. Alex, call back. I think he tried to call, so let me go ahead and try to get him back on here because I know he wanted to talk. And I got to give everybody their opportunity to call in. I just want to make sure we focus on the guest. If you have a question for them, definitely call in, especially when Dennis is on a run there. Alex, welcome to the Evolution of Sports Talk Television here on a Friday night on Memorial Day weekend. What do you have to say, my friend?
What's up, Peter? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, buddy. Doing Sports Talk Television here on both of these platforms. It's a beautiful thing.
You had some pretty good guests on tonight, didn't you?
Yeah, we were supposed to have Ricky Reynolds on, but once again, things happen. Former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, a busy man, so we'll work on trying to get him on next week. But Dennis Phillips killed it, and of course Jason Powers, and all you guys right now, you webheads, you fans of this show, I cannot say enough how important it is for you to support, share, and like, because if we don't,
we always do. As you know, we always.
I appreciate that. I really do. So, what's on your mind, boss?
So Peter, I want to start with, if you have some time tonight, going over a couple phases real quick.
Sure.
Number one, of course, I'm going to go back to my Rays first. I have to do this. I know you're tired of hearing about it. I just wanted to give a perspective on myself. I want everybody to look at it as a fan, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I know it's all a mess. I know I'm bold, as you know, Peter. We have a shit ass owner, and that's what it is.
Right.
It's what it is. But I want to lay it down into terms to make understand. And when I thought about this after we last talked, what Stuart Sternberg sees, why I defend him in a one way, and why I'm still deciding if baseball should be in Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, after we talked, I thought about it, and first of all, before I moved up here, I lived in Tampa. I lived in North Tampa, so I drove about 45 minutes, 50 minutes.
You went to
a
about
ball
40
game.
games. You said this the other night, right?
I did about 40 games a year.
That's amazing.
Now it is, but the reality is that, I think what everybody needs to look at, and there's some stats people need to look at. Number one, the Rays, rather people don't know this though, but the Rays have the highest TV attendance, and I believe all of baseball. Could be wrong. Don't hold me on that.
I think you're right about that. The highest TV ratings out there. And of course, why wouldn't they? They're the 11th largest market. It's not like, they're a small market. They're one of the top markets in Major League Baseball. Continue.
And the thing about it is that the fan base is out there.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't say, so all these other team markets and all these, everybody's saying that there's not a fan base. There's a fan base. The reality is we need to come down to a solution of why are the fans not coming to the games?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can be the first to tell you, as a guy that was going to 40 games a year, three things, or actually two main things. Number one, I'm going to be real with you guys. The stadium sucks. It does. I'm sorry.
It's not the greatest. I mean, it's inside. It's 72 degrees.
Peter,
yes, I agree.
Peter, I live up here in the Northeast now for a couple of years. I told you that.
Right.
So I've already been to Camden Yards. I've been to Yankee Stadium.
Beautiful.
So I've been to a couple big stadiums.
Sure.
Of course, the CR Rays, of course, but these stadiums are beautiful, man. And
state of the art.
And I know that the reality is that Tampa cannot have an open stadium. So when it comes to that, it's impossible, right? The cost of that, of course, is going to. I mean, I'm not really about the cost, but I think what I'm trying to say is that the stadium where it's at is horrible. I think it was Dennis who talked about it, and I think he nailed it. I think Dennis nailed it tonight. He talked about transportation, and I was hoping he would snag it on that, and he was right.
Sure.
I live in Baltimore, man. You want to know why these major cities pack their games out?
Mm-hmm.
Ready? Because all of these major cities and every single stadium I've been to so far has a transit that takes you. I can park 6 miles away from the game and take a light rail right to the stadium.
Correct.
The problem is people don't realize that Tampa Bay has one of the worst transportation issues in the country. It may not be a big city. I mean, Tampa Bay as a region is pretty big, right?
Mm-hmm.
But where I think the problem is where the Trop sits, it doesn't fit. It's not going to fit. It's not going to work. I think there's a lot as a fan. And remember, I'm speaking as a fan. I'm not speaking as a professional.
I love to hear fans talk because, again, this is the lifeblood of the show. This is the lifeblood of sports. And this is what I want to hear. I want to hear fans' perspective. I don't want you to say what the national media or some of the local media will tell you to say.
And Peter, I don't want it coming from you guys. You guys are sports analysts. You got DPI or Dennis Phillips. He does this for a living. You guys got sports, podcast. I'm just a normal fan. I'm a die-hard Rays fan. I'm a die-hard Bucks fan. I love my Tampa teams. But the problem is that when it comes to the Tropicana side, when it comes to the fans coming to the games, Dennis did say one thing right, and he nailed it. And I can't confirm him more. The reality is, it still does not matter. You had playoff teams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, even when we had.
Did you say playoffs? Hold on.
Playoffs?
Yeah.
Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
All right, go ahead. Continue. Sorry, I have to.
We had playoff teams. We had the front office. Okay, and I know they don't get enough credit. Screw your owner. Okay, we had a front office make deals on trading guys that we absolutely loved. Look at Longo. Look at Blake Snell. Even go look at Snell. Look how that actually benefited us.
Right.
I mean, you got to think. Snell's over there pitching a 4.5 ERA right now, and I think he has only a win or two on the season.
It's a fair point.
Maybe.
He's definitely not putting up the type of Blake Snell numbers. And what this team is good at doing is, identifying, kind of like the Patriots, identifying when that talent, when they used up all that ability and talent and they were on their last legs to get the most value for them. But the problem is, whether it's right or wrong, and usually more times than not, it's right. Fans don't understand that. They don't understand why Joe Madden was a manager for the Chicago Cubs, winning a World Series for $1.5 million or whatever it was. They don't understand Ben Zobrist going to the Kansas City Royals and going to the Cubs and winning multiple championships. They don't understand that. What they understand is keeping fan favorites intact. And the whole, issue is, well, we can't do this because you're not supporting it. Wait a minute. You're getting money from other Major League Baseball teams. You expect me to believe that you don't have more money? No, it's that you don't want to invest the money into the team. So fans say, you know what? Why should I invest in your team if you're not willing to do it yourself?
And Peter, I agree with that on one concept. And one concept why I don't agree with what you're saying now. And normally I never say I don't agree with Peter.
All right.
So if you hear that on the sports web, it's like unbelievable. So I agree with you on the frustration of, our ownership. But I can't agree with you on the fact that as a fan and as supporting the team, at the end of the day, we got to look at it as like this. We got a 25-man roster put up every day, every game, who goes out there, they bust their ass, they play their heart out.
Right.
These guys only have a $25 million payroll, which 10 of it goes to KK alone, which I would, if you give me some time, I would like to go there for a second. I don't know how much time we got.
A little bit.
But it's the fact that you got people like myself. I can't speak for the people, but I'm speaking for the fans, man. I'm speaking for the diehard Rays, Bucks fans, and Lightning fans in here. Now I can't really put that in the category as Lightning and Bucks because the Lightning and Bucks have ownership who invest and love their fans and make the fans happy and make the adjustments.
And that's the point. I think you would have more fans. Right, Alex, I think you would have more fans if you had ownership like that. And that's been my whole point of contention. I don't hate everything the Rays do. In fact, they're very talented. But I feel like if they would put more effort in it, and I mean spending money over $100 million, which they've never been able to, just be mid-level. But you're talking about a team that has like a 50 million cap, and they're talking about cutting players. I can't imagine.
This? Can you imagine this?
Yes.
Peter, let's just say you're KK. Let's just say you're Kevin Kiermaier, okay? And you're going on the field every day, and behind your back, you technically right now are the base of the franchise, which I'll get to that in a second because that's a whole nother topic about me and KK.
Sure.
And going in there every day, knowing that your ownership can gives a honestly doesn't give a two shit about you unless he makes his sweet ass appearance in the playoffs.
Yep.
I that baffles me. That as a fan,
it's tough.
As a fan,
yep.
You're supposed to be there for your community during rough times or not. I don't know what he does on his own time. I know he's a businessman. I don't know anything about it, but how many times do you hear about part-time owners, and when they do come into town, you are bashing your fan base?
Yep.
I don't get it.
All right, finish up with KK, and then we'll get you out of here. All right, boss?
Okay, with KK, I want to see KK traded. I think, as you know, his batting average has been waste. I think the Rays are going to realize that they don't trade him now, that
they're not going to get nothing for him. He's still one of the top defenders in the league.
But here's the problem: is he's batting under 200.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You got a guy batting under 200, and you're paying him $10 million a year. Nobody's going to buy that, bro.
Well, it just you kind of wonder.
Rays are going to have to ride it out and take a while.
Well, you kind of wonder.
Real quick.
Yes.
Real quick. I just want to talk about the Lightning real quick.
Sure.
I'm super excited about on Sunday, man. I think we're going to play great. The other guy mentioned that that we have an advantage over the Panthers are all because they have been worked harder. I think that the rest for the Lightning is going to be a break for us, so that is going to be really good. I do feel confident about this series. As for the Bucks, we'll talk about that another time because I gotta get going. But Peter, I appreciate you, man. You know, there's something about the show, man. This show, some people actually I want you to know that some people really appreciate this show, man. This show brings. I want you to know this show does bring joy to a lot of people. So you keep doing what you do. You keep doing your hard work. And you just keep being the best, brother.
Hey, man, I appreciate you. I'm going to go ahead and fire those cannons for you right there. And I'll go ahead and give you a woo. And heck, I'll give you a macho, man.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Alex. I appreciate that comment and all the nice stuff that you've said about me. Your check is in the mail, my friend. All right, boss?
All right, brother. Have a good one.
All right, good stuff. I love it. Gotta love it. You gotta love a webhead. You gotta love a fan, a sports fan, a hardcore sports fan on Friday night that says, you bring joy to my life. Which, remember, in my life, when I was younger, I didn't get a chance to really talk that much about sports. In fact, some people said I ruined their life with talking sports, and now I'm making people happy in their life. 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. Let me go. Having Bernard is going to cause issues with Rojo and Fournette. Not enough balls to go around. I can see Fournette being released later on in the season. We'll see. I mean, they re-signed him. I think it's a good problem to have. I tend to agree with you because there is only one ball going around. We kind of talked about this with the wide receivers, but what happened with the wide receivers last year? Injuries happen. It's not for long. As my uncle is in the back trying to distract me for some reason when I'm doing a live show. And I have no idea why. But Fournette, we've heard the stories. Lombardi Lenny, playoff Lenny, does not come to be if he doesn't make the decision to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. I love that. I love that whole idea. Hey, I'm Bruce Arians. I'm BA. I get it. You are a first-round pick, but now you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. How much do you want to be a part of this? When we heard from other reports that, the coaches love Lenny because of all the things he does. Well, he dropped passes last year in the regular season. And he missed blocks. So maybe the coaches weren't necessarily all sold on him. At the end of the day, both of those running backs have things to improve on. And Lombardi Lenny played absolutely out of his mind in the postseason. And some people say because of that, he's going to be your starting running back. We'll see. Competition is open. At the end of the day, you know who I like. I like the victim of volume in a Ronald Jones, who's only 22 yards away from 1K. Who's coming into a free agency season. Does he have to work on things? Yes. He has to catch the ball better. He has to block better. He has to do a better job consistently. He has to stay on the field. But when it comes down to it, he gets that space, he's electric. He's got that facet that Lenny doesn't have. And I think it's a good problem to have. And then you talk about Bernard coming from the Cincinnati Bengals and how Tom Brady and BA had to recruit him. And you believe it. You know why? Because they feel like he's an integral part of this offense in 2021. Because of that inability of both of those running backs not able to catch the ball consistently. That's what Bernard can do. So if it rubs one of those running backs the wrong way, oh well. That's the way the Bucs are going to go in 2021. Competition is open. 727-255-0391 at 727-255-0391. Stephanie says, Woodley, I got you. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Always great to have a woman tune in to a sports talk show. Love that on a Friday night. Peter, will you be doing anything live at Ferg's this year? I don't think so, but there will be a specific place picked out. I'll never say never, but we got a plan. I got 2 platforms. I'm good to go. Trust me, I got a plan. Just tune in and see it. We're on I Love St. Pete, and we're also on the Notoriety Sports Network. So we'll figure something out. And if you need to have a notification, Monday and Fridays, 9 o'clock. I don't think I'm doing this Monday because it's Memorial Day. Unless we got something breaking, which we may. Julio Jones may be some breaking news, but I don't know if you could do a sports talk show. Right now, it's quiet. It's like this. It's quiet. Plus, it's a holiday. Do you want to see me on your holiday talk sports? I guess you do. So we'll see about Monday, but it's usually Monday and Fridays. We'll add Wednesdays onto it at 9 o'clock. Do you like Bernard better than Fournette? I'm with you, Peter. Rojo is the best back. I agree. I think Rojo is the best back overall. He's still young. It's not like Fournette's over the hill. He's not. I think it's a good problem to have. I like Bernard. I like him a lot. But the whole idea of, well, Bernard's going to come in here. He's going to be your future back or your feature back. Excuse me. No. He's going to be a guy that works in this passing offense. He's going to be your third down back. They're going to use him the way they try to use Rojo and Fournette. And it's going to work. Because Tom Brady and BA are going to make it work along with Byron Leftwich. So, yeah, I like it. I do. I like it a lot. All right. Again, Bucs news for the day. According to Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times, Tom Brady was working out in an organized team activity, which was not official because coaches weren't there, with 10 teammates, including Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, tight ends Gronkowski, and Cam Brate. Of course, this goes back to the comments from BA saying he would prefer players to work out in the facility instead of outside so they could be there for their own protection. What else today that we didn't get a chance to talk about? Bucks related. We talked about the Bernard comments. I mean, Todd Bowles, what are your thoughts on those comments? I mean, that's what you hear. That's the trend you hear with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers all throughout this offseason. And it's kind of refreshing. It's like, look, we won the Super Bowl, but we got to start over again. And I was listening to Teddy Bruschi talk about this a couple of months ago, and he said it best, that's going to be the most difficult thing to do, is the reset. Because you developed all these relationships with these players, you got to the top of the mountain, where's the hunger? Teams get complacent, and then they get passed by. And there's teams in the NFC that can do that. But I like the overall attitude of this team in the offseason. We're starting over. All jobs are up for competition. We're going to do better than we did last year. Todd Bowles goes, we're starting from scratch. What are your thoughts? 727-255-0391 at 727-255-0391. I'm very interested in what Darden can bring to the offense. Another player. I mean, people say, well, they brought back all their players. What did they add? The draft. Jalen Darden in the 4th round. He could be special. And he doesn't necessarily have to start for this team to be special, right? He could be on special teams. He can make an impact. He's a lot better than Jalen Mickens. I mean, it remains to be seen. I think he's going to be. With this schedule. 5 primetime games. I mean, that's going to be one of the storylines coming into the season. Can the Bucs get it done in prime time? They didn't do a good job last year. Can they do it this year? And it starts with the Dallas Cowboys. So lots of questions to definitely be answered in this upcoming season for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we mentioned the workouts there. We also mentioned the 2 helmet, which is being reported by ProFootballTalk.com. What do you think, Bucs fans? You want to see them go back to Bucko Bruce and the creamsicle? I'm not the biggest fan of it, but, I like to see it, actually. I think it would kind of make fans happy. Be that cherry on top of that cake. So we'll see if that works out. Aaron Rodgers situation, nothing new about that. There was something from the Tampa Bay Times a couple days ago. According to the Tampa Bay Times, Antonio Brown faces a new civil lawsuit coming from sports marketing company KCB Marketing. KCB Marketing is alleging that Brown did not pay commission on $2.4 million that they say they helped him earn. And this is from Matt Baker of the Tampa Bay Times. In a lawsuit filed Tuesday in Broward County, the company KCB Marketing said it worked with Brown for several years to help him secure marketing deals. They signed an agreement in July 2017 to continue working together and resolve Brown's previously existing undisclosed outstanding balance for commission. The allegation dates back to 2018, of course, with Brown as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there you go. I don't know how much that affects his playing time with the Bucs. I don't know. Of course, you got the series starting up with the Lightning and the Carolina, and I want to say Panthers, but it's not Carolina Hurricanes, on Sunday at 5 o'clock. How interested are you in that series? I think there's a lot of people interested in it, honestly. The way the Lightning played in that Panther series, which was tough. Can it get any better? 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. Want to get to some other things here, but I think we covered, most of what we wanted to cover. Probably read another comment here. Probably need a drink. Let's see here. Let's see. Darden has a little Barry Sanders in him. He makes people miss. I mean, that's that thing. When you get out into space, that's what he can do. And there's a reason why the Bucs traded up for him in the 4th round. There's a reason. You can't teach speed. We talked to the great Leo Haggerty the other night. You can't teach size and you can't teach speed. You can't. Of course, the Buccaneers today, this is what I was trying to get to, announced several members of the front office have been promoted, including a well-known former player, Alex Smith, a longtime former tight end, of course, drafted from Stanford, and John Gruden was promoted from pro scout to assistant director of pro scouting. Smith is heading into his 5th season with the Buccaneers front office after an 11-year NFL career. That includes, of course, playing with the Bucs, as well as time with the Eagles, Browns, and Washington. 3 other members of the front office have been promoted to VP titles. Mike Greenberg to vice president of football administration, which him and Jason Light is such a great duo. Hopefully that guy never gets picked up by another team because he definitely knows how to work those contracts. Duke Preston to vice president of player engagement, and John Spytek, another integral part of that front office, to vice president of player personnel. Others promoted in Tampa Bay were Sean Conley to pro scout, Sean Scannell to assistant director of pro scouting, and John Van Dam to assistant tight ends coach. Not to be confused with John Claude Van Damme or Rob Van Dam, Hall of Famer for WWE. Yes, I had to put that in there. Sorry. Teams will have tape on us. They will. And according to Peter King's point on Pro Football Talk and NBC Sports, he believes the Bucs are second because of the game versus the Chiefs. Have the Chiefs improved? Who knows? But Tampa Bay brought everybody back. How can that be a detriment? I don't know. I think I've heard everything in this life. Well, they brought everybody back. Was that such a good thing? Yeah. It's what teams want to do. It should be your goal and focus going into the offseason. You don't want to lose a Shaq Barrett, do you? Well, I don't know if we should have brought back all these players. Was that a good thing? The locker room's going to be the same. That's a good thing, right? The locker room was that bad last year? No. What the heck is that? Again, officially, Antonio Brown signed his contract, so he did pass his physical. Can't wait to see the Creamsicles' best uniforms of all time. A lot of people feel like that. I'm really surprised by that. I really am. That whole thought process. We talked about the stadium situation. We talked about everything else. Are you enjoying the NBA playoffs? Hopefully no fans get unruly. Hopefully they're as good as you want them to be. So until next time, again, thanks to the great Dennis Phillips of ABC Action News, meteorologist, one of the busiest men I know. And of course, Jason Powers here on Powers on Sports Podcast. Check that out on all the available podcast platforms. So until next time, and I don't think we're going to be on Monday. Happy Memorial Day. Enjoy it. We'll be back next Friday, but we'll get into a weekly pattern where it's Monday and Fridays. And when the season comes, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. And the evolution of sports talk television will roll on the Notoriety Sports Network. And of course, I Love St. Pete early on this Saturday morning. It's almost Saturday, right? Friday night, guys. You ready? Bring your passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake. Have a great weekend.
Dan Arthur here for the I Love St. Pete Facebook group. If you're a business owner looking to connect with tens of thousands of potential new local customers, you owe it to yourself to get enrolled in our Key Tag Rewards program. Since 2019, we've signed up more than 200 local merchants. Sponsor opportunities are available too, such as our group banner ad and even your own custom key tags. Just go to stpetekeytag.com, get enrolled, and get ready to get busy. stpetekeytag.com.
Notoriety Sports Network. Breaking news, live shows, unprecedented content. Notoriety Sports Network, built different.